Speaker Mike Johnson takes a contingent of Republicans up to Manhattan as a show of force for Donald Trump. We'll let you hear what Speaker Johnson said about what he saw. Plus, that case against Donald Trump crumbling before our eyes. Michael Cohen caught in a really big lie on the witness stand, and the media is melting down about it. Plus, chaos on Capitol Hill, a cat fight. It was fantastic. We'll discuss all those things and more today with our panel. Vice President of the Association of Mature American Citizens, Andy Mangione, Director of Communications of State Freedom Caucus Network, Greg Price, and communications guru and founder of 917 Strategies, Sarah Selip. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we're brought to you by the Association of Mature American Citizens, AMAC. It's time for the Roundtable. And we begin the roundtable, as always, with This Week on the Hill Salem News Channel. Speaker Mike Johnson talks about what he saw as he visited the Manhattan courtroom this week, where Donald Trump continues to face a criminal trial.
Donald Trump is being targeted because of who he is. If he was not running for president again, I don't think you'd see any of this barrage of prosecutions, these local district attorneys and state attorneys who are after him. Even the federal Department of Justice is after him through special counsel Jack Smith. They have targeted him because he is soon to be officially the nominee of the Republican Party for president. And this is their only way to stop him. I think they assessed that some time back. And so everybody around the country can see this for what it is. Anybody who looks at what is happening objectively has to reach the same conclusion. They are targeting him because of who he is. And the real threat to this, Tony, is it is the weaponization of our system of justice itself. And as I explained in that presser outside the courthouse in Manhattan yesterday or earlier this week, look, you have to understand this is something that would undermine a very foundational principle of our country. The people have to trust that the justice system is fair, that there really is equal justice under law. And if we don't have that, we lose something very important to maintain a constitutional republic.
Greg, how important was it to see Speaker Johnson and Governor Doug Burgum and Congressman Byron Donalds and Senator J.D. Vance? I mean, it was a whole parade of Republicans going up on the Acela corridor there to stand with Donald Trump, literally, and then also speak on his behalf to the media, since Donald Trump's not allowed to.
No, it's really important that they did that because, as you say, Donald Trump is literally prevented by this judge from calling out the political motivations behind this prosecution. And the whole prosecution is a total joke. And so, yeah, it was very important for Speaker Johnson and all the Republican members of Congress to be there and to stand with the Republican nominee for president who's being targeted by this weaponized system. And, you know, it was funny to see the liberals in the media melt down over the fact that Speaker Johnson did this. They said, oh, how dare this powerful politician go to New York City and weigh in on an ongoing criminal trial, as if powerful politicians haven't weighed in on ongoing trials before. So, I mean, Donald Trump is the nominee and he is being targeted, and it's really important that every Republican stand with him.
In fact, it wasn't just liberals in the media. It was, Mitt Romney also, Andy, said that it was unseemly for these members of Congress to do this. He said it undermined the judicial system. I don't know. For me, I question any Republican who doesn't speak out about this. What's undermining the judicial system, I think, is the misuse of it in this case.
Larry, they should rent a bus from D.C. and take it down to New York, full of Republicans piling into that courtroom and supporting former President Trump. We all know what this is about. This is about, hopefully, the Democrats in their mind get a conviction so Joe Biden can run around for the rest of the election season and say, convicted felon, and former President Donald Trump, convicted felon. They just want to apply that moniker, that tag to him. They're going to try and disgrace him. They're going to try and humiliate him. They're going to continue their attempts to muddy his name and call him a convicted felon every time they possibly can when Biden, whenever he comes out from under, from under his rock, I was going to say, but really whenever he comes out from his basement to campaign. That's what this is all about. It was great to see high-level Republican leadership supporting the former president.
Sarah, you're pretty recent from working on the Hill. Recently been up there. Is it as chaotic as it seems at times? Because this week they actually sort of, at least in this case, showed themselves to be somewhat organized and on message and actually doing something that was politically effective.
I agree with that. I mean, working on the Hill is one thing, but being in the Freedom Caucus world is another. I was part of the Freedom Caucus comms world for about 4 years. And so seeing all of these people actually getting it together, they do their best. They do their best. But it's great to see that this is an actual movement and there's a steady wave of members of Congress and political figures going to support Donald Trump in person.
Yeah.
And plus the fact that they can even get all of the schedulers to get the train schedule right is always really promising, but
Exactly.
logistics.
They actually made the train on time and actually got up there. That's a logistics nightmare sometimes. Well, while you're talking about it, and since you're a comms expert, the other story that was happening in the background of the show of Solidarity up in Manhattan was Joe Biden finally accepting Donald Trump's challenge to debate. Do you see that, Sarah, as a sign of desperation that they know that they're starting to lose it here?
Absolutely. I mean, if you take 5 minutes to look at the terms and conditions of what the Joe Biden team forced CNN to do for this debate, it's absolutely insane. The fact that they have to have their mics turned off immediately after they're done speaking. Honestly, I would just like to see Joe Biden sticking with the counter for how long they're actually able to speak. It's going to be a mess. There's not going to be a live audience. And they're just doing everything they can to make him look like he can actually fight when all he can do is barely read a teleprompter pause.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. And read the pause on the teleprompter.
Exactly.
Andy, great Ron Burgundy, without the charm. Andy, I don't think it's going to happen. I think what they're going to keep layering these demands on there, and Trump may ask for one or two things, and then Biden's going to be like, oh, forget it. That's it. We tried. It's not going to, because they can't let him up there on stage, can they?
No, they can't. But I hope and I pray that it does happen. I'm a little concerned that these, and I agree with you, Larry, they're going to continue to layer demand after demand after demand, and then take a step back and say, hey, we did everything we could. The convicted felon and former president, Donald Trump, is being unreasonable. I hope it happens. I wish it would happen in October. They're doing this in June. Potentially in September. I've read commentary, and as everybody else here has, about perhaps they're doing this so early, so if he stumbles, he can be replaced with time to spare to campaign.
Greg, what do you think? Is this debate going to happen? I mean, we're in the business of content, and I want it to happen too, because that's a content creator's dream to have the debate to work with.
I think it's going to happen because, as Sarah said, they had to put all of these demands on there in order for Joe Biden to actually be able to do it. Of course, they're not going to debate Donald Trump in a large venue with a raucous crowd, with some semi-neutral people moderating it. Instead, they're going to CNN without a live audience, with Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, two of the biggest liberal hacks in the mainstream media, who can cut off Donald Trump's mic whenever they want. Like, Donald Trump, if this debate happens, he's basically walking into Bryant-Denny Stadium as the away team. Like, he's going to be, you have these people who are able to shut off his mic, and it's not the type of environment that Donald Trump normally excels in. And with all these, the insanely controlled environment that it's going to be, Joe Biden will definitely have the advantage.
Yep, I agree. It's not a debate. It's two guys repeating memorized 2-minute lines at a podium one at a time. That's hardly a debate. Let's go back to Speaker Johnson on This Week on the Hill Salem News Channel, because he also commented on some other problems that are going on with our legal system. Take a look.
This week, a pro-life activist, Lauren Handy, was sentenced to 57 months in prison, nearly 5 years, for peacefully protesting outside a D.C. abortion clinic. Now, Handy was charged by the Biden Justice Department for violating the 1994 Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which they began enforcing aggressively after the overturn of Roe. Is this not an example of that weaponization that you talked about?
Completely. It's an upside down, instance of priorities being exactly in the wrong place. They're aggressively prosecuting people who are exercising their First Amendment freedom to talk about the sanctity of human life on a public sidewalk. And meanwhile, they catch and release dangerous criminals, persons who come across the border illegally, and people who are violent offenders multiple times over. These district attorneys and even the Federal Department of Justice have turned a blind eye to so much of that, and yet they're targeting people that have a different political viewpoint. I just think it's such a blatant example of exactly what we're talking about. And the people see this. They see a two-tiered system of justice. And that's a real threat to us, because if people, Tony, at the end of the day, if people see that this is what is going on, they lose their faith in the justice system itself. And then they just determine, you know what, what's the point? I'll resolve my disputes on my own. I mean, that's how you lead into chaos, and that's how you lose a culture. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah. So, Andy, I'm told by Democrats that abortion is on the ticket this November, and they're going to play this up as much as possible. They may be right that abortion's on the ticket, but with stories like that, where a pro-life activist who were just praying outside of one of these abortion mills gets thrown into jail for 5 years, that actually might come back to harm Democrats. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. AMAC is an organization that supports life from the moment of conception to natural death, and we are unashamed to say that. It's in our mission statement, and we're proud to be supporters of life. So that said, yeah, abortion could be on the ballot, but when they run stories like this and when they act and they weaponize the Department of Justice, I think the most important thing that Speaker Johnson said was when they weaponize the Department of Justice, it causes people to lose faith in our institutions, in our centuries-long institutions, and it causes chaos. But people are also smart enough to see, and they know the difference between a peaceful protest and then what happened 4 years ago with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor, when you had mainstream media people standing in front of burning buildings calling this is a mostly peaceful protest. People know the difference, and they realize that what's happening to that poor person who's sentenced to almost 5 years for peacefully protesting on behalf of life is quite different than when they burned cities like Louisville for Breonna Taylor and other cities throughout the country in the George Floyd protests. And where are the consequences for the people who participated in those violent protests over the summer? Where are the consequences for the people that are participating in those violent protests on college campuses? People are smart enough, voters are smart enough to compare and contrast what's going on.
Yeah, Andy makes a great point, Sarah. The messaging is palpable. Just last week, we saw these anti-Semitic and violent protests on college campuses. People get a slap on the wrist, maybe detained and then released. But meanwhile, this guy praying a rosary gets thrown in the clink.
It's disgusting. The best thing that could have happened from all of this with the Trump convictions, the prosecution against conservatives, is that we realized as a unit just how dangerous the Democrats are with weaponizing the DOJ. They could come after Trump. They could come after you. And in this case specifically, you see that because you're a political opponent on a big ticket issue, they're willing to do whatever they can to prove their point.
We'll let that be the last word. Thank you, Sarah. Well, the criminal trial of Donald Trump in Manhattan took a pretty rough turn for the prosecution this week. Shockingly, Michael Cohen, apparently, I know this is breaking, he's a liar, and he got caught in a lie. As Jesse Waters on Fox News Channel explained, it was a Perry Mason moment.
Michael Cohen suffering under a blistering cross-examination today, and oh boy, did he fall apart. The prosecution's entire case rested on one phone call that Michael Cohen says took place. Cohen testified that he called Trump's head of security and told him that the Stormy payment was taken care of. That was the big link between Trump and the money. Today it came out the call never happened. Trump's defense lawyers showed Cohen a sheet of text messages on the night he claims he made that call. Turns out Cohen had been getting prank calls from a 14-year-old and called Trump's security chief to ask if he could sic the Secret Service on him. Trump's defense attorney raising his voice, zeroing in on Cohen. That was a lie. You did not talk to President Trump. Cohen panicked, shifted in his seat, voice cracking. I'm not certain that's accurate, but the call logs don't lie. It was a Perry Mason moment. Sources inside the courtroom tell us the entire jury's jaw hit the floor.
All right. Well, I don't know if that's anatomically possible, but still, it's a vivid image. Greg, I'm nothing if not an investigative journalist, so let me start this question. This happened 8 years ago. Were you, in fact, that 14-year-old prank calling Michael Cohen?
I was 18 at the time, Larry. I was a bit of a troll. Maybe we did some prank calls back in the day, but
I knew it.
Wait. You mean to tell me that a guy who once went to jail for the crime of lying lied on the stand yet again? This is wow. Like, Whoever would have thought that Michael Cohen would lie in a criminal trial, which he has done before, and in addition to Congress? And yeah, I mean, it's just another instance about how the whole case is a complete joke. You have this convicted perjurer who is the witness that it all depends on. You have a Soros prosecutor who lowers half of felonies to misdemeanors, but elevated this one to a felony. You have a judge and a lead prosecutor who all donated to Biden. You have another lead prosecutor that was literally number 3 at Biden's DOJ. You have the judge's daughter raising money for Democrats. This is truly, it's a political hit job, and everybody with a brain can tell that it is. But here's the thing. It's really their only hope to convict Donald Trump before the election. Like, the Florida case is indefinitely delayed. The January 6th case hinges on the immunity Supreme Court decision. And Fani Willis is once again going to trial to have to explain why she shouldn't be kicked off the case for hiring her boyfriend and paying him millions of dollars that they went on vacations together with. So this is their last chance, and it's really unraveling before them.
It is. And Sarah, listen, I sort of assumed that a Manhattan jury was going to convict him, and this whole thing was baked in the cake, and it was such a setup job. And Trump was still going to look okay because the majority of the American people were going to see it as the frame that it is. In fact, polls show that right now. They don't think he's getting a fair trial. But then this moment that happened yesterday, where even with all of the deck stacked against Trump, Cohen still caught in a blatant lie on the stand in front of the jury. He may walk away with an acquittal, or at the very least a hung jury now.
Exactly. And I think it can be summed into 2 words: womp womp. Like, honestly, it is so devastatingly sad when you look at this entire architectural structure that the Democrats had to just get Trump. And they're like, oh, Michael Cohen is the perfect guy for the stand. He's going to unveil all of this information. You mean TikTok fanboy running for Congress, shirt wearing Michael Cohen? He has nothing to do except go and get more followers. There's nothing crazier than this. And of course, just how this trial is going, of course, it involves a 14-year-old boy, because that's what all of the Democrats are acting like. Children, just like, get it done. Like, elect a president fairly. Let's stop doing this, because again, if the Democrats are doing it to Trump, they can do it to you.
Yeah, that is the takeaway from all of this, Sarah. You're right. And I think that even if it doesn't even need to be said, American people see this and they think, wow, this is a miscarriage of justice. And then, Sarah, I don't know about you. My parents used to tell me, if you lie about the small things, you lie about the big things. Now, that lie that they caught Michael Cohen, and that's a big lie. But what about this small lie where he claims that he never wanted a job in the Trump White House? Watch.
Michael Cohen said he never sought a job at the White House. Brian Lanza here, who worked on the 2016 campaign, says that's not true. He recalls Michael Cohen wanting to be White House counsel. We have some journalists on our panel here saying that's not true. They recall Michael Cohen saying he was going to join the White House. He was very excited to do so. According to Blanche, by the way, Cohen, this is about the harassing calls. Cohen said the person they would have to explain to the Secret Service. The person replied, "I'm 14. Please don't do this." This is when Michael Cohen was getting harassing phone calls. There is a block feature on phones, by the way, if you're getting harassing phone calls. In any case, Alyssa Farah Griffin, tell me, what do you think?
So listen, I was working for a number of Republican lawmakers at that time, several of whom would go into the administration, including Mick Mulvaney as OMB director. And it was widely known and believed. Now, Michael Cohen never told me firsthand, I'm going into the White House, I want to, but it was widely discussed that he was angling for Attorney General or to be White House counsel. That's
Attorney General Michael Cohen. Sarah, listen, I assure you, Alyssa Farah really wanted Michael Cohen to do a good job yesterday. All of Jake Tapper's panel wanted him to do a good job. When they're acting like a funeral just happened, it's a bad day for the prosecution.
It is so rich that Alyssa was the one going on to talk about this. What credibility does she have? She has lied about everything since she left the White House for her own fame. But Michael Cohen, we can't expect anything less from Michael Cohen. And at that point, who wouldn't want to be in the White House? It was a brand new candidate who everybody was supporting. It was just a fire when Trump came into the White House. A lot of people would have sold their soul. But at the same time, now that we see what we did about Michael Cohen, do we really think he would have been a great AG? I mean, you can't get Merrick Garland in front of Congress either. So
You know what? That's a fair point. Actually, I shouldn't mock the idea. Greg, we'll let you finish this up here. How does this end, do you think?
Well, it's a Manhattan jury. They're obviously probably lean left on most things. And so, it could go either way, but based on like I don't know how anyone in their right mind, even if you're the most liberal person ever, could in any way, shape, or form vote to convict Donald Trump on this. I think even though you have all of these things stacked against him between the political conflicts of interest among the judge and the prosecution team, among, the clown show that was Michael Cohen in court, I don't know how anybody in their right mind could convict Donald Trump on these crimes.
Yeah, you're right. It is a Manhattan jury, but I will say this. I used to live in New York. I know a lot of New Yorkers. They're annoying. They're abrasive. They're obnoxious. They also have a sense of fair play. Giants fans notwithstanding. So we'll see how this ends. The other big story out of Manhattan, as Michael Cohen and the prosecution story started to crumble, is how the media reacted to this. You see, this is all they've got right now. The Atlanta trial is dead. The Florida trial is dead. The D.C. trial is waiting for a Supreme Court decision. All they've got is Alvin Bragg, Stormy Daniels, and Michael Cohen. And when that started to disintegrate, the media went insane.
Michael Cohen was cornered in what appeared to be a lie.
I don't think I've ever seen a star cooperating witness get his knees chopped out quite as clearly and dramatically as what just happened with Michael Cohen.
This does seem pretty bad, though.
This does seem, I feel like there are a lot of questions that have been raised.
I think if I was a juror in this case, watching that, I would think this guy's making this up as he's going along.
Sarah, I think my favorite part of this coverage was having to watch Anderson Cooper detail what he saw because he was sitting in the courtroom. At one point, he had to take his glasses off and wipe the sweat off of his brow because he can see that everything that they've built up here with their special logos, the hush money trial, it's all slipping through their fingertips. It's great.
It is amazing. And the best part, again, is that it was all tanked by a 14-year-old boy.
Yes.
Honestly, it is so absurdly funny because they do all of this. They create this false narrative. Look at the January 6th trial. It's all mass produced. And then a little kid prank calls Michael Cohen. And then they're saying, oh, well, why didn't you block the number? 14-year-old boys are smarter than that. They would have found other numbers or just calling like star 69. It's not hard to do that. And the fact that he was so dim-witted to do that and make such a big deal about it. And now, how many years later, a 14-year-old boy is the one to tank it. I just want to meet him. I want him to be on Jesse Waters or your show. Just interview him. See what happened. The guy who tanks Michael Cohen.
There's nothing more Michael Cohen than threatening a 14-year-old boy with the Secret Service because he's prank calling you. That's such a gorgeous thing. But Greg, I mean, I keep waiting for the day of reckoning for the media, from Russian collusion to January 6th and now to this. I keep waiting. Oh, and let's not forget Hunter Biden's laptop, et cetera, and the censoring of social media. I mean, will this finally be it, or is this we just got to deal with the fact that this is how the media is always going to be?
Well, it's definitely the latter point. Like, the media has always been like this, and this is how they're always going to be. And I guess the day of reckoning has basically already came. Like, trust in corporate media is basically at an all-time low. Like, the viewership and the subscriptions, they've slowly declined over the years because, like you said, they build up, whether it's Russian collusion or whether it's something like this, they build up these totally fanatical stories about Donald Trump that, anybody paying a modicum of attention can tell that there might be something fishy here. And then they get chopped up from under their feet and they look like idiots. And all the clips that you showed there, it was them. Look, it reminded me of the day that we learned Russian collusion was false. They were just like, they didn't know what to say. You had the one lady on CNN going like, oh, this whole Michael Cohen thing, it's raising a lot of questions about his credibility or whatever. Like, this is what they do all the time, and this is how they're always going to be. And that's why you should never get your news from CNN or from the New York Times or from any of these morons.
Well, let me follow up there with you, Greg, because that is part of what I saw happening yesterday as this story unfolded was the MSNBC viewers on social media, on X in particular, screaming at Katie Tur and Andrea Mitchell for actually reporting what happened, reporting the truth. If you're a viewer of MSNBC, if you're a viewer of CNN, and all you've been getting up until now is Trump's going to jail, bad orange man in an orange suit, it's going to happen, and this happens. I mean, that audience has not been served with the facts of this case. And so it's going to be a shock to their system. It's going to create an angry electorate. That's what the media is doing here.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And like it was literally the same thing with 2 years of Russian collusion. Like you saw, like there was the polling that was done during that time where a majority of Democrats thought that Russia had somehow altered the votes in order to get Donald Trump elected, which there was no evidence at all that that was true. And yet over half of yet a majority of Democrats believed that. And like you said, it's the same thing here. The majority of these people thought that Donald Trump is this evil, bad man who had done all of these bad things and was going to jail for it. And yeah, like you said, that is their goal, is to rile up Americans into hating this man. And that's just what they do on a daily basis. And they do it by not reporting the truth.
Yeah, the problem is, we have a First Amendment not to protect Jim Acosta's right to tell a story on CNN or to protect, some writer for the Washington Post to write a story. The First Amendment is for us. The American people need to have a free press so that we can be better informed. These people are not better informing the American public. They're just becoming propaganda arms for whatever political party they want to be supporting at any given time, or political candidate or political idea. MSNBC is the worst of the lot. Let's take a look at how they took the news yesterday.
I think the punches are building cumulatively. I think Tuesday there were bruises and today there's blood, to extend the metaphor. They're not done, and this is a back and forth process. I was listening to your reporting, following along like everyone. I'm going back in the courtroom next. I was just speaking to our colleague Lawrence O'Donnell, who spoke to MSNBC today as well. I think the collective view is these are moments the jury will remember, and they are instilling or adding possible doubts about Michael Cohen's long-term credibility. As I think everyone knows by now who's followed the trial, the question isn't has he changed his mind and retracted things. Both sides agree on that. That's not in doubt. The question is, does this guy still lie? And if he does still lie about anything, little, medium, or large, can you trust him? And the standard is not, okay, do we have to be convinced that he lies about everything? The standard for the jury and why Blanche is making some progress is, by the end of this, does the jury have reasonable doubt about Cohen telling the truth on elements of the crime? The other stuff won't ultimately matter when they deliberate. It just accrues. But what we saw in that kind of dramatic back and forth as it's been described today, well, but you did lie, and have you lied, and why do you sound like this, and a podcast where you might sound allegedly unhinged, all of that accrues to whether jurors go back and say, I doubt whether he's telling the truth about an element of the crime. For example, Trump's criminal intent back in 2016. So I think they are landing blows, Andrea.
They're landing blows. So, Sarah, when MSNBC has to face the music on things like this, things start to crumble for the Democrats and for the left. But does it resonate? Because if you're not suddenly tuning into the right day where facts come through, you really think that this whole trial is about whether Donald Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels or not, which last I checked may be odious and gross to think about, but it's not against the law.
It just depends who you think, MSNBC thinks is being bruised and bloodied. In my opinion, it's their careers, because the American people are so sick of the gaslighting. I'm sick of the gaslighting. It's just been 1 minute after another of basically election day coverage, like where's Stephen Kornacki just coming up to give us the play-by-play about the new news of the court trial. And it's disgusting to see, because we're told day after day, you're evil, you're a racist. As a Republican, how dare you? They're calling us the liars, and then their star witness goes on and lies through his teeth because he can't get his act together. And I'm sorry, this is embarrassing that this is the star witness for them. Yeah. You can expect it. Once is a mistake, second is a pattern. That's all it comes down to.
It also doesn't help that Michael Cohen literally looks like a rat. I mean, if they were doing a live action of Ratatouille, he'd be the star. It's creepy when you look at his face. Not to be too gratuitous or mean. Greg, this also opens up a lane for alternative media. We're growing. We're exploding. live streaming news shows like this one, everything that we're doing at Town Hall across our Town Hall websites, including Red State and Hot Air and PJ Media. And our colleague, Matthew Foldy, who was just on the program here a couple of weeks ago, it was just announced that he's starting a brand new right-of-center news service, not an opinion site, but a news service based out of Washington, D.C., because there is still a demand for news and for facts. These guys, with their budgets, they're just not fulfilling that demand.
No, and yeah, alternative media has exploded over the years, and Elon Musk buying Twitter, now X, played a huge role in that, and that really is the future of media. It's not these massive corporate outlets, that are beholden to their corporate overlords and that have this fanatical hatred for half of the country. It's not just the conservative media, like you said. It is alternative media that will give both sides of the story and really and explain what Republicans are actually thinking, without the lens of these morons like Ari Melber on MSNBC. And I was a part of the conservative media world for a little over 2 years, and it's exploded, especially in the age of Trump, and it's only going to get bigger as stories like this ridiculous Trump trial blow up in legacy media spaces.
It may be a sin to enjoy other people's misery, but just for a 24-hour cycle there, it was kind of fun to watch CNN and MSNBC struggle with this one. And I agree with you. I think that we are exploding, we are growing, and there's a reason for that. It's not that people don't want the news anymore. They just want quality news, and we're glad to bring it to them. Maybe at the end of the day, it's not Trump who will get convicted at the end of this trial. It's the corporate-owned media. This week, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion kicker Harrison Butker's commencement address at Benedictine College caused an uproar. He's a practicing Catholic. He was delivering a message to Catholic students graduating from a Catholic college, and it was about being Catholic. But for some reason, a whole lot of people who aren't Catholic were chiming in with their outrage. Well, earlier today, the daughter of the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, Gracie Hunt, appeared on Fox and Friends, and she was asked about this controversy. Take a look.
We're going to start with you because the couch would like to know, as America would, the reaction from the Hunt family regarding the kicker, Harrison Butker.
Well, I can only speak from my own experience, which is I've had the most incredible mom who had the ability to stay home and be with us as kids growing up. And I understand that there are many women out there who can't make that decision. But for me in my life, I know it was really formative in shaping me and my siblings to be who we are.
So you understood what he was talking about?
For sure.
Okay.
And I really respect Harrison and his Christian faith and what he's accomplished on and off the field.
Greg, the question here is the message that he delivered to specifically the women graduating. He had messages for men too, by the way, that were, kind of tough love as well. That's not getting a whole lot of attention. But what he said was, listen, you're not at the end of the day going to remember all of the great promotions you had and your great work achievements. You're going to remember the family you raised and the children you helped educate and bring into the world and being a great wife to your husband. And that's what everyone's angry about, Greg, is this really a bad message to be sending to young people? And by the way, that's a message for men too, about how they want to prepare themselves for life.
I mean, wow, what a scumbag. Am I right? This guy, oh my God, this guy had the audacity to tell women at a college graduation that the most important thing they'll ever do in their lives is get married and start a family, and said essentially the same thing to the men. Like, wow, what an evil human being. And yeah, no, obviously it was not a bad message what he said at all. I feel like every couple months, some like high profile professional athlete or celebrity will say something conservative and it becomes the biggest scandal in the world. This is like kind of just the latest iteration of that. And like, you can tell that a lot of the people commenting on this didn't actually watch his speech and are just putting, a lot of false pejoratives on it.
Yeah.
Because the message, like, clearly the most important thing all of us will ever do is starting a family. I'm sure you would say the same. I'm sure you would say that about yourself. And yeah, this is the message that all these people are angry about. And the left, they're angry about it because he really attacked many of the false idols that the left believes in. The left, there's a reason that the majority of Democrat voters are single women, unmarried women, make up the huge base of the Democrat electorate. And this explains why a lot of them are angry at Harrison Butker today, because he attacked, all of these idols that they ascribe to. They don't, as opposed to, telling them, hey, family is important. Family is really one of the last conservative institutions in America. There's a reason that married women vote overwhelmingly Republican, whereas unmarried women do not. It's really one of the last lines of defenses that we have against the left in this country, and they're mad at him for advocating for it.
I tend to agree with you, but what do we know? We're men. Sarah, set us straight here. Was this an offensive message to women, or are women acting too, I don't know, triggered by this? What's happening here that we're missing?
So I think we're looking at it from the black and the white. If you take a step back and you look at the trad wife versus the feminism argument, that's what it comes down to. A lot of women feel like they either need to be single to prove that they're a feminist and a boss babe, or they have to be a trad wife and just completely succumb to like their husband's needs. You can be in this gray space. Like, you don't have to be owned by a certain side because you're a conservative or you have to be a Democrat. And this comes back to the Democrats always just getting upset, especially the women getting upset, screaming into the void because a man is saying something about how this has served him, his beliefs, and this is what he wants for his family. It has nothing to do with them personally, and I think they're taking it too personally. So just take it with a grain of salt as it is. He's a pro-family Christian conservative, and it works for him, and it's brought him joy, and he wants that for other people.
I wonder also if it resonated, like, as a Catholic, he used words like the vocation of marriage, which is a very specific vernacular for Catholics. We view our participation in the marital bond in the same way as a priest's vocation to the Lord. So I wonder, again, if there's sort of a disconnect here, not just conservative and liberal, but also specifically Catholic language spoken to a Catholic audience, because being married and raising a family is, in fact, an important vocation, Sarah.
Oh, absolutely. I'm Catholic as well. And so I totally understand it, where this is an actual event in my life that is going to be one of the biggest things that's ever happened to me. And this is the specific role. This is the big step. It's not just, going to a Las Vegas courthouse and something like that on a whim. This is something you've set your entire life up for, to serve God. And there are so many people, especially on the conservative side, who are Protestant, evangelical, Baptist, and they don't really understand the Catholic lingo. And so when I saw that, I understood what it was about, because I went to Catholic school, all the way through college. And you just have to take a step back and think about it, or look into the background, which we don't do enough. If you don't like what they're saying, read into it more, figure out your own bias and why you're thinking that way, not because an influencer or infographic is telling you what to say.
Well put. I think you're right. I think a lot of the reaction here came from political bias, certainly, and people sort of going into their own camps. But I think a lot of it was also born out of ignorance. Greg, there's also a real Catholic disconnect here in terms of some of the other criticisms. They said that he was being snide about LGBTQ issues, gender issues, gay issues. I think almost every single comment he made about those kind of cultural issues, abortion, DEI, he was really talking about the fact that prominent Catholic leaders like Joe Biden were betraying the faith on issues like that. And he was trying to call these young Catholics about to graduate college, calling them to enter into the world, enter into society, and become leaders who don't turn their back on their faith, who actually promote those values. It wasn't a criticism of gay people, it was a criticism of Joe Biden.
Yeah, like I said, he attacked the sacred idols of the left, whether it's abortion, whether he attacked, he attacked birth control, he attacked, the absence of fatherhood, all of these things that affect cultural rot in America. He was attacking in that speech. And, that's why essentially these people are screeching today. And like you said, there is a difference between, calling yourself a Catholic and actually living out your faith. One of the things that he said was that, the Church of Nice, as he said, is not a winning proposition. And he's exactly correct about that. And, again, they hate to see somebody who actually would live out their faith in the public square and advocate it to the next generation. That's really where I think the biggest disconnect is. And, the other thing to say about it is, like, there was a petition on change.org that has like 200,000 signatures at this point calling for the Chiefs to get rid of this guy, which first of all is not going to happen because he's one of the best kickers in the NFL. And as an Eagles fan, I can say, I remember the Super Bowl a couple years. There's no way the Chiefs are getting rid of that guy. But it's like, you think about all of the truly scummy people that are active NFL players. You know, you have people who've beaten their girlfriends, you have deadbeat dads, and you have, you know, one of his teammates, Rashid Rice, who literally just got arrested for causing a 6-car pileup in Dallas, Texas. You think about all these really scummy people who literally play in the NFL right now, but the bad guy is the Catholic guy who gives a speech about being Catholic at a Catholic college. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's a great point. And all the comparisons to Colin Kaepernick are absolute fraudulent. You know, what Colin Kaepernick said and did, he was in uniform on the playing field before the game, wearing the logo of the NFL and the 49ers. What Mr. Butker did was in his private life, again, at a Catholic college. Real fast, one last question here, because the polls are showing that Donald Trump currently is actually leading with voters under 30. I feel like a lot of the reason the media is overplaying this story is because they're making conservatives look out of touch and sort of, you know, old-fashioned and not really in a groove with young people. But my impression right now of young people in this country is they're moving more in a conservative direction, actually, than my generation was in our 20s. Sarah, am I misreading that, or am I just taking a sample? Because a lot of the younger people I know are conservative.
No, I think you're exactly right. There have been multiple studies about this. Look at what has happened in the past 10 years with the pandemic. The kids who graduated high school during the pandemic went to school, and now their campuses are being taken over by pro-Hamas activists. You're also looking at that from the social justice perspective, which I feel like a generation before. I was born in 95, so I'm on the cusp of millennial Gen Z. And what I've realized here is that when I was growing up, social justice was the big thing, especially as a woman. It was still wear the pink hat, everything like that. But when you get older and you start to, I was never that person, just saying, but when you get older and you start to see all of this social justice movement stuff, you graduate, you can't, like, I live in DC. I was paid almost nothing in my first internship. And then I have to go and live on that. And then it's looking at the taxes and you're saying, what would best serve me? And I think, honestly, it is just being a conservative, seeing where your money's going, lower taxes, everything like that. And they look for guidance, but the only people who, you know, if you're a journalism major, you're looking at Anderson Cooper, Katie Couric, your entire school career. You don't get those. You need people who will actually fight for you, not for the cause, the ideal world Democrats pitch that sounds so sexy.
Yeah, we'll let that be the last word. I'll just also say people should watch this entire speech before they form their judgment. When he's talking about his wife, he breaks down in tears and talks about how they met in band class in middle school. I've never seen anything more wholesome than these guys, and that's why the left hates it so much. Everyone's going nuts about chaos on Capitol Hill yesterday. It was quite a scene at the Judiciary Committee hearing and Oversight Committee hearing under the watchful eye of Chairman James Comer. And, well, it's hard to describe what happened. You're just going to have to watch it.
You know we're here about
just
AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order,
Mr. Chairman.
That's beneath even
the order of your committee.
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your
Move
feelings hurt?
her words down.
Oh,
girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play,
Baby girl. I don't think
we are gonna move, and we're gonna take your words down.
I second that motion.
So who will have to pay? But Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
should apologize.
recognizes
No.
Mr. Perry. Okay, hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then
Okay,
you're
reserve
not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the minority.
pretty
No,
self-evident.
Chair you're not.
Yeah, you're not.
out of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd like to strike those words as well.
I move to
I would
strike
like to
the
order.
lady's
as well.
words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the
There's
words.
another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's the
control.
correct apology. Ms. Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words,
That-
but I'm not
all right.
apologizing.
Without objection. Without
Not
objection.
apologizing.
21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's
It's me.
Ms. Crockett?
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
I'm
parliament.
trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to
I
strike
had no
those
idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just
Oh,
said
you
that-
just- you just
voted to do
Y'all did it first, so you don't
just
talk about
voted
it.
to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get
clarification.
Look at calm down. Calm
No,
down.
no, because this
I
is
would
what
like
y'all
to get
do.
through proceeding.
So I'm trying to
Hey,
get
Ms.
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Ms.
games?
I can't hear
Crockett.
you with your
And you
yelling.
don't want me
Calm
to be-
down.
No.
Can you please calm
Don't
down?
tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all
Please
talk
calm
noise
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take it.
control.
Because if I
Look,
come,
Chairman,
if I
can
come
we
and
send
talk
outside to
shit
take a
about
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a problem.
Chairman, Mr.
Order.
Chairman.
All right,
Sorry.
chair.
I don't know why
Okay.
you're
Order.
acting
Chair
like
now
that.
recognize.
I'd like to.
Sarah, why does that please me so much? I feel horrible. I feel guilty that I want to watch that on a loop. I don't know why, but it amuses me. And by the way, I blame you. This sort of thing didn't happen when you worked on Capitol Hill. What has happened up there? It's all unraveling.
I love it so much, Larry. And I just realized I'm basically wearing the same top as MTG, which was not planned.
That's right. Oh, baby girl.
Oh, baby girl. Oh, baby girl. And it's so funny that AOC is now playing the adult in the room.
Yes.
But a few takeaways here. Number one, God bless Jamie Comer. God bless that man. And it's just so funny to watch him and Raskin looking at each other like parents. Like they have no idea what's going on, right?
Right.
Congress is a mess as it is. 118 is the dumpster fire, and this is a late night hearing. Are we surprised by this at all? But I don't know if I can get the words like, what was it? Bleach blonde, bad built.
Bleach
Butch.
blonde, bad built butch body, I believe is how it went.
The
Yes.
alliteration there is brilliant.
That is Pulitzer level writing right there.
It's so good. Like, please keep that in the record. And then MTG and Boebert with the seat between them, because God knows they would start a fight like that. This is a hearing, okay? Like, and remember, who was it who called AOC? You know what?
The
The
big
B word.
booty Latina.
No. Someone called her the
Sorry.
other B word, but someone else did. But it's so funny that she's the one who's like, "Oh no, you can't say that about someone else," and she does this to people all the time.
Somebody told me that when they say "oh baby girl," they're saying that in lieu of another B word that they would rather say. But listen, a lot of people are saying Marjorie Taylor Greene started this, but let's just to be factual here. She was not making a derogatory comment about Congresswoman Crockett's looks. She was factually pointing out that she had fake eyelashes. I mean, they are fake eyelashes. They're the size of butterflies.
Yeah, I've had fake eyelashes before, and I try really hard not to look like that. But Jasmine Crockett's from Dallas. Like, that's just the vibe. Big hair, big eyelashes, big everything, right? It just, the cat fighting is out of control. And then Sweet Angel and Aplina Luna in the back, just like, please, guys, please stop. How? Why?
Florida jumping in there trying to be the voice of reason.
Georgia, Florida, New York, Texas, like, y'all.
And
Y'all,
Georgia-
please just get it together. Oh, Georgia.
So MTG's Georgia, Luna was Florida, I think is how it all
Mhm.
worked out there. But
Yes.
yes, then the gentleman from Kentucky saying, "Oh, what now?" It's
now?
everybody fitting their job perfectly. But in a larger picture, I'm told by very serious journalists in this town, Sarah, that this is indicative of the Republicans' inability to lead. Is that what it's indicative of, or is it indicative of we got a bunch of clowns on Capitol Hill?
I don't know if anybody's used the word inability to lead talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's basically the kid in the back of the room throwing spitballs at other Republicans. Like, she loves chaos. I'm not surprised by this. It's hilarious. Obviously, Republicans need to stop the infighting alone. It's just nice to see it pushed to the other party for once.
That's true. Matt Gaetz was like, "How do I get in on this?"
Literally.
Sarah, can you tell me, because you until very recently, you spent quite a few years up on Capitol Hill. Is this how they are generally when the cameras aren't on and we just got to see it for once?
And this is a good question because I wasn't there when Jasmine Crockett was. I was there for MTG, and my former boss, Jody Heiss, was part of the oversight committee. He's a brass knuckles guy, lays down all the punches, won't take anything from anyone. And the funny thing is, he will do that with the cameras on for the hearing. But the second they're done with the hearing, Jerry Connolly, Jamie Raskin, all of them, they were just such good friends. And during Jody's last hearing, Jerry Connolly and Raskin and Carol Maloney, whatever her name was, they all came together and they were like, Jody, you are so good at what we do. We're going to really miss you because you're such a stand-up guy. So you have to think about it that way. A lot of them do like each other, but MTG just tries to create chaos wherever possible.
There is this one moment, if I could, you mentioned the interaction here in this video between Jamie Raskin, the ranking member, who most Republicans in this country would probably think of as a rather odious figure, since he's sort of taken the place of Adam Schiff as the point person on all the Democrats' conspiracies against Donald Trump, and of course, the chief defender of Hunter Biden. If you watch him react to this moment and what not just Jamie Raskin's reaction, but his interaction with James Comer, there is again something rather heartwarming about it all. Take a look.
Bleach blonde, bad built butch body that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
parliament.
I'm trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
What you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just said
you just voted to do
Y'all did
it.
it first. So
All right, but you see Raskin trying to hide the smile, and he was helping Comer figure out what the motion should be and all that. I think this is good for the American people to see these members of Congress acting like we would if we were up there.
I would love to be a member of Congress right now, but I'm too petty. Like, I would pull this stuff a lot of the time, and I think my mouth would get me in trouble.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, like, this is 1 in a million. You have so many boring hearings.
Yeah.
But I think this year, 118, is really going to help C-SPAN rise in the ratings.
Do you think part of this, by the way, Sarah, is because these were women, young women involved in all of this? There is a Real Housewives of Capitol Hill sort of vibe to it.
Absolutely. And look in the background for Eleanor Holmes Norton. That's all I have to say. She's just sitting there like,
right. What has happened to our institution?
baby girl. I just want a t-shirt with that. Maybe I'll make that for my store.
It's a good idea. And by the way, if this is going to end up being a regular thing and they're doing the whole Real Housewives of Capitol Hill thing, I volunteer to be your Andy Cohen. I want to do the end of the season wrap up where everyone's sitting on a sofa and where we really let the claws fly. Please, I think I'd be good at it. That's it for this week's Roundtable. We'll be back next time, same place. In the meantime, I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.